All right, it looks like we are live, and this is a very special show that we have for you today. I appreciate your patience. We were having a couple of small technical difficulties, but we're here now, and we are ready to talk about optimizing park operations with the software sisters, aka the ticketing sisters, the point of sale sisters. I mean, we've been called a lot of things over the years, and we're going to talk about how we got that name. And I'm very excited to bring on my guest today. My guest today is somebody very, very close to me, somebody who has helped me build this business, build this tech. And in most cases, I would say she's probably even the better of the two of us when it comes to the conversations around what's actually happening inside of the organizations that we work with, but also uh, how we came to be here today in this work that we do and why we do the work that we do and how she came here. She's known as the Gatemaster Guru, and I'm very excited to bring onto the stage my sister and my best friend, Tiffany Blair. Tiffany, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. I think this conversation is well past due,
Yes, I would say so too.
in so much that I'm sure the audience is wondering about us. And I want to start with a story from last week because I know we're going to talk a little bit about that adventure that we went on with Silver Dollar City and IAPA. But
Sure.
last week, I'm not going to say names, but somebody close to me that I know through the industry kept calling her Sondra. And not only once, twice, or three times throughout the day, got us confused. And some of you might get us confused because I know if you guys have come, if any of you have come by the booth at IAPA or the water park show, I mean, we are often confused. I guess we do look a lot alike, but I'm not going to tell you who's older. I'm just kidding.
Me. I'm just kidding.
You could probably guess who the older of the two of us is. But Tiff, I just want to start telling a quick story, if you don't mind.
Sure. Sure,
I'll
yeah,
do
go
that.
ahead.
I talk a lot on this stage about, or on the show, about how I got into the industry, being recruited by Stephen Richardson, the founder of Gatemaster, probably 23 years ago. I think I'm in
Mhm.
my 23rd year, 22, 23. I kind of lost count, but he came to me years later and he was like, "We've got to find another one of you, right? How do we find another person like you?" This is what he tasked me with. And I was like, "Well, I do know somebody and she's probably even better than me." And that's when I asked Tiffany to come and join the team all those years ago. And Tiffany, what would you say? How many years do you think it's been for you?
17 years. So my first time working with Gatemaster, you basically took me to IAPA with Steve, and you were like, shadow everybody, learn all you can learn, and I just duplicated everything I saw, and so IAPA marks my anniversary, so it's easy for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and sure enough, I would say we are known as the software sisters, the ticketing sisters, the point of sale sisters. We've been called a lot of things, but it always has sisters attached to it because we are sisters. And so I know we're going a little bit off script today because I just thought, it's a holiday week, a short week. I'm not sure who's going to be around to watch this show live today, but if you are watching on repeat, hashtag repeat, so we know you were here and we appreciate your support. But one of the things that has been really great about working with my sister is that we do think a lot. We understand how each other thinks. And it's made it real easy as we move into the organizations that we work with to really be able to look at the uh, benefits that we're giving to them in terms of the software product that we offer, the managed services that we are doing. And I know oftentimes, Tiffany, it can be a challenge because so many of the parks that we're working with, you are oftentimes managing their teams
Yes.
to some degree, or at the very least holding them accountable. We have relationships with many of the owners and operators that hire us or give us the job, the task of working with their teams. But oftentimes, you in your role are working to, one, keep them accountable to timelines, working with their teams, helping them figure out how to best use the product and software, but also looking at the overall park operations with regards to the work that we do and how we can improve some of those things. To me, what would you say, like, from your experience? I know, like me, you've been to hundreds of parks and
Right.
worked with hundreds of parks. What would you say the biggest challenge of implementing a new ticketing system is for parks today? What do you see being one of
Um,
the
I
biggest
think
challenges?
I think one of the biggest challenges is just understanding the little nuances that exist within systems themselves, right? So when I say that, it could be, I was talking to a facility and they were asking me, why don't tickets scan? Why wouldn't a ticket scan? Well, there could be a lot of factors there. It could be there's a glare on the screen. It could be that the barcode isn't readable based on the fact that there's no white space. It
Yeah,
could be that it's too big. You know what I mean? So there's just a lot of little details that you have to train your staff to be able to recognize and then adjust. And different components working together. So it's software, somebody else's hardware, or somebody else's printer didn't print the barcode off properly. So how do we deal with those different challenges that we're facing? Because some of these things are out of our control, right? The guest brings in a paper that just wasn't printed properly. Well, how do we deal with those things? So it's a manner of training them to be able to understand and recognize those details and then be able to adjust to be able to accommodate the customer so that we can quickly get that guest in and into the park where they're actually having the good experience that they want, right?
right. Yeah, and I think so oftentimes, I mean, from an implementation perspective, when you move in to the onboarding phase of a new partner that's working with Gatemaster and their ticketing and point of sale, what would probably be, I guess what I'm asking is what would be the advice that you would give them to be best prepared for a transition like this or an upgrade like this?
I think to understand your pricing is really important, the different structures that come with it. With us, there's a lot of different ways of setting up an item. So it might be understanding that workflow that the guest has to go through and be able to communicate that to us. So then we can effectively build it properly within the system. So then it's just a quick and easy, transition. But a lot of times people don't really understand what that workflow looks like. So to know, okay, well, if the ticket comes from the e-commerce, how do we want that to function? Do we want that redeemed at the point of sale? Do we want that redeemed at the access control? What does that look like? So typically that's the biggest challenge is knowing what the workflows look like, not only from a guest perspective, but also what your team members have to go through, right?
Well, at the end of
So
the day, your team has to support your guests through that process. So understanding that process is critical.
right,
If we're talking about hospitality, right? That's a big part of
right,
hospitality. I think a big part of the conversation that we have both on this show and together, and we were
right,
talking today about hospitality and how that works with technology today, right? And
right.
understanding that, you know, a well thought out tech strategy can enhance your hospitality.
Yes,
A not well thought out tech strategy when it um, comes to technology can do the opposite, right?
right,
Last week, I was talking about one of my own personal experiences getting season passes from a park I won't name because they do not work with us. And, but I had this experience personally. I was at the park and I received for a family of
yeah,
5 for my season pass. You were there, you know
yeah,
this. But for
yeah,
a season pass and for my meal pass, we were given 6 different tickets to manage from the ticket booth to the season pass processing, hoping to God they didn't blow away on this windy day. I mean, I was scared to death, right? Like, that's not hospitality.
no.
Sorry, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings here, but the truth is that's a big ask for your guest.
Well, especially if you have children, young children, So luckily for us, our children are a little bit older, but if you had 3 kids under the age of 8, that's a lot to ask them to go from one side of the park to the other side of the park. There was at least 3 or 4 different touch points, and if you didn't even know where to go, you might have gone to the wrong place first, which we actually did. We went to the wrong place first and then got sent to another place, to another place. I mean, it was what, by the time we got into the park, 4 different places we had gone
Yeah.
to.
And the truth is, had we been able to figure out how to update or renew these passes online, which we couldn't do easily, wasn't intuitive or easy for me. And I mean, we do this for a living, guys. We're like
Mhm.
experts in this. If we can't do it, I promise you, your
Guess can.
guests are struggling with this because it has to be easy, intuitive. And this is why we bring the hospitality to technology, because we are talking about, how these tech strategies can enhance the hospitality, can create a better experience for your guests, and not have those big asks for your guests that I don't think are appropriate. It's not appropriate when we're talking hospitality, right?
It's about efficiency. The more efficient you are, the better the hospitality is offered and given. And because if you have those workflows thought out and you understand what that looks like, the staff or the team members can then spend their time saying, hey, what do you need? What can I help you with? Versus dealing with these little things that should just be automatically running, right?
Yeah. So we automate so much of that so that they can be with the guests, because
Right.
that's what hospitality is, right?
Hmm.
And let's just be real. The attendant who was helping us out, both at the ticket booth and the uh, the season pass processing center,
Processing.
they look burned out,
Hmm.
right? They look burned out,
Right.
probably because they're having to deal with this complex process every day. They're probably having to deal with guests who are not satisfied with the process early on. They haven't even entered the park yet and they're already upset, right? So I don't want to, I had a big show about this one last week. We talked a lot about this, but some of the other things that I wanted to, just because I have you and I know you have so many stories to tell
Yeah.
about what we've been doing in parks for so long. One that really sticks out to me is the water park that moved to mobile ordering. So we were the very first to actually have an integrated mobile ordering system built into our tech. Like, we thought about this. We were actually prepared prior to the pandemic. We just unfortunately were a little ahead of our time because it took that awful situation to get parks to actually start thinking about touchless transactions and how they could use mobile ordering.
Right.
What I would really love to hear, because it's one of my favorite stories and wins that you have, is implementing that at that park. We have a case study on that. Tell us a little bit about that park, who they are, and what we did early on to help them implement mobile ordering, and what a difference it made in that business, and even how they grew.
Yeah, so this is a great story because I had known this individual probably since the beginning of my career, and I'd just seen him at, the World Water Park Association. And every now and then I'd be like, hey, how's it going? And during COVID, they decided to make a switch. So, year 2020. And we offered the mobile ordering and the online scheduling with for the day tickets, those kind of things. But what was interesting about that facility is when we implemented the mobile ordering, pretty much all of their food transactions at one point had to take place on that platform. And that was because as they got towards the end of their season, they started losing their staff. And so mobile ordering helped fill a gap that they otherwise couldn't solve, right, without having that platform. But it also allowed them to scale the food and beverage portion of their facility. And so that first year, he was like, I think I'm going to have to get a grill. I'm going to have to add on a second grill. I'm going to have to expand my food and beverage operations. And this could be as simple as adding a moving cart that is just selling soda and water, right? Because now that food stand is just there to just service people who are purchasing food and more food options than just beverage options. So we can split that traffic. But the I think the biggest part is that it allowed them to accommodate their guests in ways that they wouldn't have been able to without having that mobile ordering option because they were limited on staff. So then the staff were able to fulfill those orders and then, process those food, deliver those orders, have them come pick up, because simultaneously we're also doing text messaging on the back end where we're communicating. So those are tasks that the staff don't have to do, but the system does. So it was really great to see. And actually, I had a conversation with him recently. I said, "Did you grow before you started using Gatemaster?" And he said, "No." He said, "We didn't see as much growth as we have today." And actually, he's grown not only in his food and beverage area, but he's also grown in his cabanas too. So we naturally see when you implement a system of this nature that we see growth year to year. And there are going to be different challenges, but every year it's like, oh, there's this, we need to address this. And eventually you get to the point where you're addressing the operations and not necessarily the system itself.
Well, and one of my favorite stories from this particular client. Now, tell the audience who that is.
Oh, it's City of Somerset, Summer Splash. Steven Sims, love the guy. Thank you, Steven.
Yeah, Steven's amazing, and he's one of our favorites. But one of the things that I love is the operational challenges that they faced. I think they were down to a handful of staff at the end of the
Yeah,
season. They were having to make sure that every guest could get food and drink in hand. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, that I think is an actionable step that our audience can take, even if you're not using Gatemaster,
sure.
is he also implemented the 24-ounce bottles versus fountain drinks.
Yes, I had forgotten about that. Yeah, so he had fountain drinks because they were doing mobile ordering to the cabanas. And what was happening is you get a group of people, and then the little kids would be knocking over the drinks, and then the team member was having to go back and forth to refill the drinks. So then he implemented 20-ounce bottles for mobile ordering, and it led to a faster process, right? And then they weren't having the loss, right, of the drinks being spilled, those kind of things, and the team member having to go back and forth. So just switching out something like that, was really helpful.
Well, and these are the kind of conversations that we have with our attraction partners.
Mm-hmm.
How can we help you do this? I've seen those robots. I mean, the nice thing is nowadays there's those robots that can follow an attendant with an ice chest full of 24-ounce beverages. So now you have this. I don't know if you guys have seen that. We were in the booth next to them at IAPA 2 years ago. They had these little robots that could follow somebody with drinks, right? And so can you imagine rolling up to a cabana with the food and the robot with the drinks? I mean, this is where we're going.
Right.
This is where we're going. And, and speaking of drinks, tell us a little bit about, because last year I know NRH2O upgraded their system. If you guys are familiar with that water park, phenomenal water park, doing great things. It's magical over there. What I thought was interesting is last year was the first season that we had done basically an integrationless integration with DraftServe for them.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
That was their vendor that currently was there. Can you tell us a little bit about what that's doing for them and how that's improving the lines, the drink situation for them?
So there's a couple parts to this. The first part would be the single-use cups. So the single-use cups we would sell from the point of sale, and a slip would print out, which would then be taken over with your paper cup over to the self-service drink station, and then you would fill up your drink, right? Now, we had shared codes. So whatever code we printed out of the receipt printer, DraftServe knew that was a one-time, one-use, cup. When we did the all day and all season, those had two different types of codes too as well. But those codes were on the cup themselves. And so the guests never had to stop at the point of sale. They only had to go to the drink station itself and be able to refill that drink. But I actually found that it's maybe for the single-use cups, it's better for the staff member to, the team member to fill those up. But when it comes to a season pass holder or an all-day use cup or an unlimited drink cup, there's no reason for them to ever have to stop at a point of sale. And I see this when I go to some theme parks. You have those, you can identify them because they have a specific type of cup, and they're waiting in these long lines and taking up space for people that actually need to purchase food, right? When we could just be redirecting them over to these self-service drink systems, and they're just scanning their barcode and filling up their cup. And it provides a much more, I think, concierge type of service and a higher hospitality service. But for me, that's what I thought was beneficial to the self-pour drink systems, is to provide it to your season pass holders or your all-day drink clientele, because then they never have to go and take up the line space, right? We're redirecting them to someplace else.
And we've touched a little bit about on season pass processing. We definitely improve that process. We touched a little bit about food, mobile
Mhm.
ordering, self pour drink systems. I want to talk to you a little bit about what's happening online with the system and how, some of the innovation that's happening and where you're seeing those tools being adopted. Things from donations
Mhm.
to retail items being sold online, the types of innovation that we're seeing with packaging. You just
Yes.
mentioned, we just finished up with some work on calendar dependencies. Tell us a little bit about how the online is being used in a greater capacity to serve the guests, but also to help the teams and the organizations that we work with to, because one of the things we didn't mention in that case study that we have with uh, with Summer Splash,
Yeah.
they're at about 80% of their transactions being done online on a mobile phone, no
Right.
less. Every phone is a kiosk at this point for them. At least
Right.
80% of them. I'm not saying that we're ever going to get rid of the need to have point of sale or attendance because, I think there's demographics where that's always going to exist.
Right.
And it just makes sense. I mean, we know that there are a certain percentage, 26% of people still don't have a credit card or a
Right.
debit card. So you still, if you're going to create a space for everyone, there's still going to be a need for cash for a little while. So
Right.
we're not saying you can eliminate that, but what I'm curious is online, what are the biggest things that you're seeing done and how are they benefiting from that?
I think a lot of people are moving towards time ticketing and calendar ticketing. What's nice about that is it allows you to have different price points depending on the day of the week or even during a time of year. So for right now, right now it's the 4th of July. Well, we could increase the price point just on that time, that time frame from today to Sunday, let's say, and we can increase it so that there's a higher cost because there's going to be a higher traffic. And what's nice about that is it does push people to the different days of the week that may be a lower cost. So we are seeing that, but the nice thing that I like about that is that it allows you to have more data about your guest. So we know when they're coming. We know once we scan their ticket, we know who they are. We have their email. And so that way we can also then turn around and send information to them saying, hey, we know you showed up. Thanks for coming. Give us a review, or here's this special offer for a secondary visit, or whatever that looks like. But the other thing too is it allows us to put different products and make them present to a guest that maybe they wouldn't know even existed. So for example, we worked with a customer on implementing photo booth sales because he wasn't making any sales in that area, and he asked us, he said, what can we do? And I said, well, let's make it available online. One, it'll make it visible so now people know that it's available, and two, we can pre-sell it so then all your team members are having to do is scan, which is a much quicker process. But the other thing that he found out by us doing that is that he actually was eliminating an entire demographic from purchasing photos, which was his all access client, all access guest. And so in year two, he had to redo all of his lines. And actually, that first week, by the way, we increased his sales by almost 40%. But he had to redo his lines so that every guest had the opportunity to stop by the photo booth. And even if they didn't pre purchase the photo, they were given an opportunity or knew that it existed and were able to stop by a point of sale. So he had to redo his lines. But then by year three, he found that the system he was using could not handle the amount of sales we were doing. And so he had to expand to a second point of sale, got a new system. But at that point, it allowed him to address his operations, right? So a lot of times when we put these new things into play, you discover things about your business that you didn't know otherwise, right? Because we're producing data, one, on especially if you're doing calendar date specific tickets. You know exactly who's coming in and you know exactly who didn't come
Yes,
in, right?
yes.
So there's a lot of information that you gain. But then also, when a customer can self service, I mean, as you know, if I'm a mom at midnight purchasing a ticket, I can do it at my own leisure. And we know that they will spend more when they have the time to consider their offering and options, right?
Yes. And we also know that guest satisfaction goes up
True.
when they have the ability to self-serve, right? So
Right.
when we talk about self-service, I know that sometimes there is this conversation in our industry about whether or not hospitality exists in self-service. The truth is yes,
Hmm.
because over and over again, we see the research is saying that guests are more satisfied when they can do it themselves. I mean, I hate to bring the grocery stores into it. I know there are people who hate that.
Yeah.
But for me, I like to organize my groceries the way I want them organized. And yeah, it might take a few minutes longer for me to do it, but I'm spending more time with the sale. That's where we want guests to be. We want them to be spending more time with the sale, because what we see and why we see an incredible increase in revenue at times is because now they're not rushed. They
Hmm.
have more options available to them. And even if they don't buy on that first sale or that first touch that we have online, they're still better prepared for it when they arrive,
Yeah.
which is why we still see those sales go up in those areas. That's why his photo booth grew.
Well, and it's a 24-hour sales.
Yes.
So we're not limiting them. And that's one thing that I hear often is, we're not doing birthday parties online, or we're not selling groups online. What happens is that then we're only selling during that period of time. So if mom can't book her birthday party when she needs to, she's going to go someplace else.
Right.
That makes it too difficult. Sometimes people don't have the time to pick up the phone and have an hour-long conversation with somebody about booking their kid's birthday party. Whereas if I could just quickly do it on my phone and have somebody follow up with me, 10-15 minute conversation. Hey, we got your order, everything looks great, I noticed you didn't add on X, Y, and Z. Is that something you want to do? And that's where technology just makes it easy, efficient, but that doesn't mean that that person after the fact doesn't have to call in and check on those people, because there's
Well,
nothing more frustrating.
I
Go
think
ahead.
there's something super valuable to say too. Convenience and speed
Sure.
is a factor for many buyers, right? For guests.
Right.
But we today have at my house same day delivery on Amazon.
Yeah.
If I can get whatever I want delivered to my house on Amazon, you better bet I expect from the attractions that I'm booking at that they would have those same things. And that does exist. That exists for all of you. If your
Right.
system cannot do that right now, you know, come see the sisters. This is what we're here. This is why we're talking about this. This is why we want you to know that we can also enhance your operations. You're not just looking at upgrading a system when you work with us.
Mhm.
You're working with a team of people who are taking these ideas from parks all over the world. I mean, we've been in 16 countries, but taking these ideas that we see at big parks, little parks, all of them, the stuff that's working well, and we bring it to you in a
Right.
way that is packaged to help you best be able to make one, the decisions you need to make, because like she's saying, the data is important, but
Hmm.
two, the having the right tools to back you with this
Right.
process. Tiff, is there anything you want to add to that? Is there
Um,
anything you want to add? Because I think we're going to wrap up. It's a short show. We got a holiday tomorrow. I want people to be able to watch this on replay, but also, if there's one thing that you could say to either the parks that we're working with or potential parks that are looking to upgrade their systems, what would be the best advice that you could give somebody in terms of what to look for?
I think it's really important. So when I do go on site, one of the things that I do is I watch the behaviors of everyone, whether that's the behavior of the guest or the behavior of the team member who's operating those areas. And when you are watching those team members or the guests, if you see them struggling, that's a key flag for you to go, okay, what do I need to fix? What do I need to change? How can I make this better? Because that experience at the gate, if it's not good right out the front door, it leads to dissatisfaction even throughout the entire time they're there. So I highly recommend that all management watch these things that are going on so that they can better improve these practices that they have, and maybe change different things that they're doing and strategize in different ways. And we're definitely here for you if you have any questions. So
Yeah,
that,
no, I
that,
appreciate that. Well, and actually, that leads me to the next thing, which is booking a discovery call. If you want to talk to somebody like Tiffany or somebody like me, we are here to help you. It's a no obligation call. You're going to be able to talk to us about the pain points that you have. And even if you're not using our system, I challenge you to call us because there might be something that we can help you with. I can't tell you how many times I know we're giving away the information because we truly believe in our mission of helping parks achieve massive success, to achieve, superior guest satisfaction, and to also provide you with legendary service. Tiffany is one of the parts of our legendary service. I know that being sisters has its challenges, right? In terms of working together. Now, we're lucky in that we really are aligned with this mission, so we don't really have any disagreements. But there have been times where parks have come to her and I'm going to tell a not so nice story, if that's okay, Tiffany.
Yes.
We've had parks come to us where she's having to hold them accountable to timelines and situations and processes, the things that we're being paid to do. And unfortunately, other people's teams aren't happy with that at times. I mean, this is a reality of what is happening both in our business and in these parks. Is we're being, once the deal's made, we're being handed over to teams that maybe don't have the same mission that we have of making sure that that park is massively successful. So Tiffany does have a challenge as an expert of holding people accountable. And there has been times over the years where things need to be escalated to me. And they're like, what good would it do? She's her sister, right? Something along those lines. And the truth is that we hold each other pretty accountable, right? We've learned over all these years that in order for us to do our best work, we have to be the best that we can be. And I'm just so proud of you because you just
Thank
I
you.
mean, I completely mean that when I say that she's the better of the two of us. She's much more technical than I am,
Thank you.
right? And you're very dedicated to the parks that you serve. I mean, I just heard her the other day say, hey, I'll work all weekend if you need me to.
I sure will.
I'm
I'll-
doing what's best for you because this is what legendary service looks like. I know some of you are out there and your point of sale companies or your ticketing systems, they're shut down for the holidays, right? I mean, that's a real thing. There are some of them that shut down for the holidays. It blows my mind because that's oftentimes when y'all need us the most.
Right.
And it's people like Tiffany, it's people on our team who are willing to serve in those moments where it can be very difficult and maybe you feel lost because it's a holiday. And the truth is, when someone thinks that we don't hold each other accountable, believe me, more than anyone on these teams, we hold each other accountable. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's harder for me than it is for somebody else because there is a higher level of expectation, especially and I want to make you proud. So it's different, for me, I feel like I have to be even 10 times better than the next, right? So I actually like that about our relationship. I think it's helped me grow. I think it's allowed me to serve people in a better way than what I ever could have. And I think I appreciate that about the relationship is that it's pushed me to do better always.
Yeah.
And that's something I want to do for people. I do care about this industry. I do care about the guests. I do care about the team members. And no matter where I am, I mean, there are times where I just see a problem and I'm not even being paid to be there. It's not even a facility that I work with that I just jump in and I say, hey, your credit card device has an issue because, the chip's not working for X, Y, and Z. And I just teach that team member how to better serve that. Oh, I'll give you another example. It was a credit card device that kept shutting off, but it was sitting in the sun. So I told this girl who was working the cash register, she had this massive line. And because the credit card device kept shutting off, I said, I'm pretty sure that device is overheating. Is there a way you can move it out of the sun and then or put a cover over it and it won't be rebooting like it is? And a light bulb went on her head and she was like, oh, you're right. I was, it was just something I recognized. So, I'm always open to helping anybody. I'm full of ideas. I tell everybody that I understand hardware very well. So if anybody ever needs anything, I'm here for you.
Well, and I think that even beyond that, I like the story about when you were at a haunted attraction. I think it was late October, and the owner had actually a pretty bad accident that landed him in the ER.
Yes,
So he and his wife were both in the ER. This particular park needed to open. You happened to be there, and what happened?
Yeah, so I showed up there and there was nobody. The team members or the owners who were typically there to help me weren't there because they were at the ER because he had a tragic accident and almost passed away. So I'm very glad he did not. But because I was there and I knew how to set up the computers, I knew how to make the system work, and they did have other team members to assist me. You know, they had people in cash control, you know, people running the food and beverage. But I helped them get their park open. They handed me their, you know, their keys, and they said, "Here's the keys to the facility." And actually, Brent was there with me. And Brent and I went through and we set all their computers up and we made sure all their items were working. And then as soon as the doors were opening, we taught everybody how to work the POS stations, and then we went to the access control and then expanded out to the food and beverage and to the attractions where we had other access control gates. So it was a fun experience, but yeah, we helped them get their park open until he was able to recover. It was a few days, and we were there for 3 or 4 days, but yeah, I mean, it was a good experience, and it was something that I knew I could do, so I did.
Yeah, you could do it for them.
Yeah.
Because that's what this mission is about, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I just want our audience to know that, when you're looking for a partner, you need partners like that. This work that we do is hard enough. Let's be honest. I mean, we were just in Silver Dollar City. Those people are out in the hot sun day to
Yeah.
day. What they need is a partner that they can trust, that's going to be there for them, that cares about their success and growth. And you get that with us. And actually, the name, the Sisters, used to be a negative thing, right? I think they were making fun of. That's right? Right? Am I
Yeah,
wrong?
yeah, because we were sisters, and so it was like, I think it's not for family to work together is, but it's interesting because families come to these events. You know, you have FECs who are working with their children, right? You have all these different facilities where, this is a family industry to me. So for us to have that be kind of a negative just seemed odd to me. But, also I think part of it is to see two women in technology, is very unique and different. And it's nice to see that growth in technology. Where we do see more women in that, in this space. And so I don't necessarily think it was because we were sisters, but it could have been because we're
It used to be
unique.
like a negative thing. They'd say, "Oh, the sisters are
Sisters.
here." Well,
Yeah.
now we're just like, we're going to run with that, because that is an advantage that we have, is we trust each other. We work together. We are on the same mission. We're aligned. Even when we go home for the day, we know that, we're on this mission of helping parks massively succeed and attractions massively succeed. What I love about this is our Thanksgivings get real awesome, guys, because everybody's got to hear about us working and who's doing what and where we're at. I mean, sometimes that's where our best meetings happen. And actually, this summer, we committed to each other to make our morning meetings a walk. What do we walk?
Yeah.
Almost 4 miles today. So we're walking 4 miles a day,
Talking business.
talking business, just like all of you in the parks. We're getting up early. We're doing our walk so that we can, kind of stand with you doing those walks, those parks, but also then returning back to the office and doing the work that we do and having these conversations.
Right.
So to me, I just really appreciate all that you do for this industry. And I don't know if, you're sometimes behind the scenes. I don't know if you get enough credit for that. And this is why I'm so
Thank you.
thankful and happy to have you as a guest today. I think we should have more of these conversations, because I think this audience needs to understand all the work that we're doing firsthand and to hear these stories.
Right.
These are the stories that need to be told, because this is how we're going to improve processes in attractions. We know we can help you.
I know
We
I
know
can
it.
reduce those lines too. So
We can reduce those lines. We can help you grow. You've got someone you can trust,
right.
who's on the same mission that you're on.
Right.
So, Tiffany, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate you. And again, just so
Thank you,
the
Sondra.
audience knows, you can book a discovery call with Tiffany. In fact, this link here goes direct to her. You want to talk about your park and what your needs are? Now's the time to start thinking about it, because for many of the parks that we work with, if you are going to be moving systems or upgrading for 2025, you're going to want to have those season pass sales up here soon. And we actually have a special deal for everybody in July. Tiffany, what is it? It's I think it's
It's
50% off of
onboarding.
onboarding, and this is $6,000. This is a deal that you cannot pass up, especially if you're facing some of these challenges, or you heard something today that you'd like us to be a part of and fix. Scan that QR code, get a discovery call with us, and we're both here for you to answer any questions that you have. So if you're watching this on replay, hashtag replay in the comments, let us know you were here. If you're listening to this on any of the podcast channels, you can reach us at gatemaster.com. Right there on our homepage, you should be able to book a discovery call. And we hope you all have a very happy 4th of July, because that's happening tomorrow. We know it's a busy time for many of you. So if you're not watching today, but you are listening, I hope you had a wonderful 4th, a wonderful, prosperous, and abundant 4th, because this is still an industry and a business, and we understand that you all are trying to make money and have the resources that you need to continue to do the great work that you do. And we appreciate all of you. So we're going to leave you today on that note. Tiffany, if anybody wants to find you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I would say contact me on LinkedIn. So or you could shoot me an email, tiffany@gatemaster.com. But really the best way is through LinkedIn. I'm very active. I'm always sending messages to everybody. So I'm sorry to any of you who have gotten a message from me, but hey, respond. I'd love to talk to you. I like learning, and that's really my goal. So thank you, everybody.
We want to get to know you. We want to get to know you. So at the very least, let's just be friends, because we're all in this business together, right? So thank you, Tiffany, for being here today. Maybe we can have you back on the show if you'll let me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
To bring some more. And I hope, again, all of you have a wonderful day. Go out and be great this weekend, and we'll catch you on the other side.